Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Fardo. And today I welcome Kai to the show, and we're going to be talking about fitness, we're going to be talking about mindset, confidence, and much, much more, I'm sure. And Kai's a new friend of mine from the Awaken community, where we've been doing some deep diving work with Danny Morel. And yeah, we're just talking about our excitement to go to Anaheim in California in a couple of weeks. So yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone there. So anyway, a quick introduction to Kai before we dive in. So Kai is from Tennessee. He was born in Palma de Mallorca, Spain, and he was raised in the southwest in Devon in the UK, which is very close to where I am. And he moved to America at 21 years old after qualifying as a carpenter in Austria in a 3-year apprenticeship. Then became a certified personal trainer and has created an online training business, helping men become warriors and helping individuals break through limiting beliefs to create their dream lives. Life is all over the place until you realize you can create everything and find the missing pieces to clean up that puzzle. So, Kai, welcome to the show today. Glad to have you on. Thank you for joining us. So, first of all, it'd be really great to hear what drove your passion behind fitness, because lots of people I speak to, they're like really sometimes into health, some of us aren't so much, but it's something we got to do, obviously. But it sounds like you're, and I know from seeing your content and knowing you, that you're very, very into fitness. What kind of sparked that drive for you?
First of all, great introduction. Thanks for that. Well, mine was more not really to do with health or anything. It was more of the way I was raised.
Hmm.
I was raised in Southwest Devon, and I was raised by an American dad and an English mother. American dad has a reason. My American side of the family are mostly military, right? So it was always a standard in our family that you had to be able to do certain things, push-ups, be able to run, just you had to have a good body, you had to be in good shape. Um, I guess I grew up in a household where we had the military influence at the same time as a very disciplined influence and just staying healthy. My youngest sister, for example, she went off and did gymnastics, and I just took the route of going into fitness instead because that was just something easy for me. My driving factor was probably in my late teens, say between the age of 17 and 19, where I had a lot of pain I was dealing with. Living in Austria at the time, I got bullied quite a bit and had to deal with some BS. And so there was a way for me to take out that aggression and that anger was by hitting the weights. Um, One important thing for me, obviously, was, to keep the calisthenics in mind because, if you can't lift your body, you can't lift shit. That's what I was told growing up anyway. Your standards was horse stands, pull-ups, push-ups. That's, if you can't do that, you might as well not do anything. Um, so for me, the driving factor was pain at first, the pain of missing my dad, obviously, the pain of being bullied, the pain of not being good enough, so to speak.
Hmm.
So I then did that, went and did my apprenticeship as a carpenter, only because I promised my mother I'd do that before I left. And then I started taking fitness seriously when I was probably in my early 20s. So I'm 27 now, and I'd say between probably about 22, 23 is when I really started diving into it. Where I started studying, where I got certified as a personal trainer. And I obviously, went through the phases of, either you bodybuild or you fully focus on calisthenics. And I didn't know that both kind of existed. I thought I had to pick one of the two. And now
Hmm.
with like the program that I built, the online program, I'm realizing, okay, I can combine the two and it's actually better for my body. It's better for your well-being. It's better for your confidence. It's better for your whole life in general. You look at a lot of old bodybuilders. Typical example is Ronnie Coleman, a man who won Mr. Olympia in the States 8 times in a row, 8 years straight, and now he's, in a wheelchair. Kind of proves to you that, you can take it to a very extreme level and kind of regret it, or you just go and focus fully on calisthenics, which would be a little bit healthier, but you're also only going to get so far. So by combining the two, and also combining the mindset, combining, like the work that we're doing with Danny Morel, for example, you combine all that together, you can accomplish quite a few things, I think.
Hmm.
Um, at the end of the day, if you can control someone's mind, you control everything, right? You can control the mind and then you control the feelings. The thoughts create the emotions create your feelings, which then becomes a magnet, which attracts everything to you, right? So that's something that I've learned is to change my belief system a little bit, and it allows me to do a lot more than what I thought was possible.
Mm,
But getting back to the question at hand, the driving factor at the time was pain. And now it's more of a thing like, okay, shit, there's so much you can actually do with it, you know?
mm. Okay, so it's pain.
A lot of
I
pain.
d okay, so it's the deal with pain now. What kind of do you feel in terms of the intention when you go into exercise now is?
Now, since it's a bit different because I mean, I had a friend who also attended the Awaken in Miami. She even asked me the same question a couple months back, and at the time it was anger, like that's how I let my energy out.
Mm,
The intention now is not anger per se, it's more like a challenge for myself because
mm,
I go in a gym and like when you say fitness versus training, any mother, I mean, excuse my language, any person can go and hit the gym, right? And any person can go and lift some weights. But it takes a certain kind of person to actually know what you're doing, what you want to do, and the right techniques. You saw a lot of people go in, they'll do the curls, they'll do all the easy stuff, and as soon as it gets painful in their body, they'll quit. Um, my intention now with it is, okay, it's more of a mental challenge for me. It's a mental challenge to see how far I can push myself past that pain. I acknowledge the pain, in an energetical essence. But when I'm in the gym, it's one of those things like, okay, I'm not gonna let that pain stop me because I'm in control of it. You know what I mean?
mm,
Which is one thing I learned being back in Nashville. I trained with a veteran, spent 25 years in the Marine Corps, and I trained with somebody who was voted top trainer in Nashville, Tennessee, a couple years in a row. And what I learned from them is, your body will go through a certain amount of pain. It's up to your mind to, decide if you're gonna push through or if you're gonna stay hanging. Which I've been put to that test multiple times, been on the verge of quitting multiple times. Um, so now going into gym, obviously my intention is obviously to, inspire people, help people. And, if you're in that pain, I understand where you're coming from because I went through that same pain.
mm,
Um, that's pretty much it. And just, showing people that your belief system will drive you to do certain things, take certain actions. Whatever your belief system is, that's your identity, right? It's how you carry yourself, it's how you walk around, it's how people perceive you. Um, Belief systems and confidence. I can walk into a building, apply for any job, right? And the way that I walk into that building is how people are going to perceive me. If I walk in there with confidence, my chest is out, my head's high, I walk in the place like I own the place, people will generally feed off of that and recognize that, and they have no option but to respect it. They
mm,
see a man who's taking care of himself. They see a man who's disciplined. They see a man who's put himself through the pain multiple times and who doesn't quit, which is another good thing for any employer, any person who's trying to build a business. Me, for example, selling my online training platform, I wouldn't be able to do that if I were, I don't know, 200 pounds overweight and if I didn't have the
mm,
confidence, if I were walking around drinking all the time, getting high and all that stuff, right?
mm,
I have to be a living example of what I'm preaching. It's like Danny Morel, for example, he's done his energetical work and now he's selling that to the world. Any person who wants to do that, you've got to look at what they've done and where they've come through and then make your decision, okay, is that person worth investing in? You know,
mm. Agree. Yeah.
that's pretty much my driving factor, I guess, now is okay, I've worked on myself to that extent. I know I'm not in bad shape. I know I can handle some stuff, and that's what I'm willing to give everybody. That's what I want to show people as possible.
Mm. To help them. So yeah, it sounds like fitness for a long time used to be a thing about just like pushing the anger away. It was kind of like a tool, maybe a distraction. Now it seems like your relationship with it is more like, okay, I'm training my mind for how I can work through these things, and then also how I can be an inspiration potentially to other people, how I can help them go further with their journey as a result of what you're doing. Um,
Absolutely. Like the training and the fitness thing, I mean, it was a trend when I first started. I started working out in the gym probably about 10 years ago.
mhm,
And back then, you see people, they're on the protein shakes, they're trying to get everything to get big, to get muscular, but that's all they want is the look.
mm,
And when you realize there's a lot more to it than that, like I have people come up to me and be like, dude, what are you training for? What are you taking? I'm like, nothing. Like, it's just me. You know what I mean? I'm not taking anything. I just eat and I train. Um, And yeah, it's basically my belief systems. It's therapeutic for me. I don't need therapy because the gym's my therapy. Besides, I don't believe in therapy anyway. I believe in stuff that, for example, Danny does. I believe in that shit 100%. But in terms of what we do with our lives, we are the creators, right? So if I can get myself to go to the gym on a regular basis, whether I want to or not, that's what you call discipline. And in general, the mission for me right now is to help people, but help men specifically, right? Because men, we are warriors, at the end of the day. We're here to provide, we're here to protect, we're here to take care of our families. You're not going to do that if you have no energy getting out of bed. You're not going to do that if you're overweight. You're not going to do that if you're
Mm,
sick. It's just not going to happen. So I feel that my responsibility is to inspire other men, to show them what I went through and they can do the same shit because at the end of the day, you start with your mind and you got to keep on pushing yourself bit by bit, small steps at a time. Everybody wants to take these massive goals and say, okay, I want to be a millionaire a year from now. Well, okay, what are you doing to get there? You know what I mean? Or I want to lose 50 pounds by the end of the year. Okay, what are you doing to get there? You know, there's certain actions that you got to take and certain things you got to do to train yourself and to staying consistent with those habits. It's like one of the ladies that I'm helping right now, which you also know her, is Kelsey from the collective. And we all know, her health is in pretty an interesting condition. And we're trying to get her out of the wheelchair, right? So what I told her, and I'm just keeping her very consistent, I guess, is I start her off small. I get her on the treadmill 4 days a week, start off with say 5 minutes. She does that for a month so her body and her muscles can get used to that. And so her brain is trained, okay, this is what we do now. This is a new habit, right?
mm,
And then you just bump it up bit by bit until at some point you don't need to because that's what they demand of themselves. The more you can demand of yourself and the more you can take control of your thoughts, the more powerful you get and the more you can accomplish. And that's what I've learned. You know, fitness and training, like when I was trained by those boys back in Nashville, it wasn't fucking training the body, it was training the mind, and that was it. We weren't doing no normal fucking workouts. It was like boot camp every Friday. We're
mm.
doing thousands of reps of push-ups, fucking squats, just a full body workout on a Friday would take us 2 hours and it damn near killed us, you know what I mean? That's how fucking crazy it was. But it was because it was training the mind. You're getting out of breath, your body is really suffering, but it's your mind saying, okay, no, I can't leave my brothers hanging. I got to complete this, you know what I mean? It's kind of like soldiers in the military. You're not going to leave your brothers behind because you got a war to fight. And that's kind of the way I see it in fitness as well. But that's life in general, whether it's your health, your finances, whatever the case may be, whatever decisions you make and whatever actions you take, they have to be in line with your outcome, your desired outcome, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I've realized is a very powerful motive. You get your mindset right, and then everything else follows. You get your mindset right, and you take actions along based with that mindset, and you're unstoppable at that point.
Mm. I like what you said about training someone's mind also for where they're at. So, like, we could see a David Goggins like run across a desert in like the hottest conditions and with a broken foot or whatever. And then like you were talking about doing thousands, I can't remember, was it thousands of press
Like
ups and
probably
things like,
about 2,000 reps, yeah.
crazy sort of thing. Like I did some earlier that's like, getting to like 70 and I'm like, ugh, kind of collapsing. But like when you're getting, it's not about necessarily, it's for when a person's at, like you were giving the example of Kelsey, like, training her mind to get on the treadmill. So it sounds like getting your mindset right for where you're at, but not comparing to other people.
Exactly. And the mindset thing is crazy because I heard that the first time when I was about 19 years old. You've heard of Robert T. Kiyosaki, right?
Yeah,
So I listened to his audiobook, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when I was about 19. Gotta
yeah.
imagine this is 8 years ago. And he said you gotta change your mindset. That's the most important thing. At the time, I didn't get it.
Mm.
Years later, I understand what he means because I've been through that training. And it is literally getting your mind used to, like, for example, I like to get up at crazy early times. My family looks at me like I'm nuts. 4 or 5 a.m., that's an ideal time for me to get up, right? Or earlier. Nobody's awake. I can crack on with my shit, and then after that, everything else follows. But I need to get my shit taken care of first. It's all what you train your mind to do. I know one guy, the guy that used to train me, his name is Justin Critchfield. He gets up at fucking 2 a.m.
I can
I'm
believe
not kidding.
I can believe
2,
it.
2 a.m., drives to the gym, meditates, and then he trains about 10 clients throughout the day, and then, that on repeat 5 days a week. But it's all a mindset thing. Your mind, what I've learned is you have to get comfortable with pushing your limits a little bit and stretching to your comfort zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've had times, yeah, I'll get to bed at, I don't know, 12 a.m. I know I have to be up at 3 a.m. the next day, 3 hours of sleep. Cool, let's crack on. You can do that a couple days in a row. It's gonna be exhausting, but that's all good for your mental strength. It's the discipline, it's the callousness that you build in your mind. Doing the shit that you don't want to do is what gets you to where you want to get. With Kelsey, for example, yeah, I'm getting her mind used to, okay, this is what we do now. We walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes a day. We don't like it, but this is what we have to do if we want to get somewhere, right? It's like the average American who's overweight. Okay, well, you got to quit out the McDonald's and the Burger King and all that crap. You got to start eating healthy now. Or you're alcoholic, you got to get them off the alcohol. It's all a mindset thing when it comes to the money, when it comes to your health, everything. You train the mind, and then you start demanding different things from yourself, is something that Justin would say. You start demanding, okay, I'm getting up early, I'm gonna eat healthy, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna read, I'm gonna, go for a walk. Reading, for example, was one of those other things. When I started working with those guys at the gym, he asked me, do I read? And I said, well, every now and then. He said, okay, you just told me you're not a reader. I'm like, well, I said I read every now and then. He said, yeah, you're not a reader. So he goes, I need you to start reading 2 pages a day. I don't care what book, 2 pages a day. Which, what does that take? 5 minutes, if that? How
Yeah.
many hours does a day have? 24, right?
Yeah.
So that was another thing. Although it's something so simple because my mind was too lazy to do that, I'd be rather scrolling on Instagram or some shit. It was something I had to get my mind used to 2 years ago to read 2 pages a day. And it was uncomfortable at first because my mind's not used to it. When you get your mind used to something, it just becomes an automatic habit. You don't think about it anymore. It's just, this is what I have to do?
Hmm. Training
And
it.
that's how you build everything that you want to build. It's simple, honestly. You change your mindset, change certain habits, and you stick with those habits. Why would you go and make, I don't know, $100,000? Or no, why would you go and make $50,000 if you're used to making 100,000? Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Why would you settle back into a life that you know wasn't good for you if you know you could live a life that's fulfilled or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
It's like for people in my ancestors, for example, why would you go back to the hood if you know you can live in Beverly Hills? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Why would you settle for less than you know you can have? It's simple, honestly.
Hmm.
When
It's
you get
nice.
in the habit of doing certain things and your mind is trained to this is the only thing I accept, nothing less, it just becomes a part of your normal life at that point, and then you don't even have to think about it. It's just what it is.
Hmm. So
So
training it
that's
a certain way to kind of get into a like new habit. That's how you like to think of it.
get into a new habit. It's easy. It's like I just had a sales call with a guy in Nigeria a couple hours ago, and I asked him, okay, so well, how often do you work out? Well, I do push-ups every now and then. I said, okay, where's the closest gym? It's about 15 minutes away. How much does it cost? $20 a month. I'm like, okay, and you haven't signed up yet? No, okay. First thing you need to do is go and sign up. It's 15 minutes away. You're telling me you can't get there? That's bullshit.
Hmm.
15, you know what I mean? It's like you can tell when somebody has excuses when they're trying to find excuses to not get where they want to go. Only reason I can say that is that was me years ago. I used to find excuses for everything in the fucking book, you know? Excuses is a victim mentality. Easy as that.
Hmm. It's too hard. I can't.
All kinds of
Those kind
stuff.
of words. Those kind of words. We talk about words and phrases behind, and but before the show, weren't we? And I think even yeah, I think even like being very intentional language and things like we were saying about the word try, weren't we? We were saying about the word busy, which I don't always get right. I'm making an effort to really get rid of those from my vocabulary because they can put you in that kind of like victim,
Yeah.
like excuses, like you're touching on there a little bit. With I'd love to hear your kind of like thoughts on like making exercise fun or kind of like tailoring it to the individual. Whilst obviously you can't sit at McDonald's, someone might want to sit at McDonald's, all the time and eat and do no exercise. And they see that as fun. That's not going to obviously get a very good results. Probably going to give you an early grave. But like,
Great, gosh.
yeah, yeah, from like being in like McDonald's or something. But yeah, do you? I mean, what's your approach? Do you try aim to make people have more fun with exercise, or is it more just giving them small increments like you were talking about to get used to it?
Put it this way, if they're really struggling, then I don't care about the fun. It's not about the fun at that point because they've had enough fun. You know what I
Mm,
mean? They need to get
okay.
disciplined. That's the number one. They need to get
Mm,
disciplined. They need to care about themselves, which is why you got to charge a price because when you touch people's pockets, that's the most painful thing, right?
mm,
You touch their pockets, they know it's for real. So somebody pays me, I don't care about how much fun it is to them. You're paying me, it's your money. You do with your money what you want. But here's what I'm giving you for your money, you know what I mean? After you've proven yourself that you can be disciplined for a certain amount of time, like take alcohol, for example, right? I went for about 2 years from the age of 24 to 26 without a drop of alcohol. Never had a problem with alcohol. It was just a decision I made. I didn't want to drink. At the time, I was working around a lot of alcohol. I was working either as let's see, 24 hours a waiter, at 25 I was a bouncer. So at 25, my job was kicking people out of clubs. My job was, breaking up fights between drunk people. That was my job at 25 years old. So I saw what alcohol did to people, and I was like, I don't want no part of that. But it was easy for me to make that decision because I saw what it did to people and I saw where I didn't want to be. Okay, it's a fun time. Next day you wake up regretting that, right? So when somebody like that comes to me, that's either overweight or tells me their lifestyle, they get high with the homies every weekend, they go out and chase girls. Okay, well, you're obviously having enough fun. I'm not worried about the fun part, right? I'm worried about the discipline right now. Is it worth you to change? What is it worth to you? What do you need to give up in order to change? Are you okay not going out for one weekend? Because for some people that's hard, right? For some people it's hard to stop chasing women. For some men, it's hard, and I'm gonna get very private right now, to stop watching pornography, for example.
mm,
For some men, it's hard to not be on dating sites. You know what I mean? So, like one of my friends right now, I've actually put him through a challenge for all of those things. It's like if you can stop all that, then you've shown me how strong your willpower is, right? It's not about your mind, it is about your mind because you're commanding things of yourself. The willpower to be able to stick through that stuff is then what requires, and then the discipline falls from that. You've made it a habit to give up on that stuff. You've made it a habit to stop looking at women. You've made it a habit to not go out every weekend. You've made it a habit to prioritize your health for change, right? So what I do is in the beginning, like say the program I sell it for 4 months because you don't see any change within 1 month. It's just not going to happen. You need about 3 to 4 months to notice a bit of change, and then you keep going after that, and then you'll notice real change. If you can stick through those few months, being extremely disciplined and showing me how strong your willpower is, after that we can maybe add a bit of fun in, but I'm not worried about the fun at first, right? For girls, it's different to boys, obviously. Girls they like to enjoy themselves, they like to go out with each other, they like to have a good time. That's not our job as men. As men, we're warriors. It's our job to be there for ourselves and for our women, right? So first, you need to get your mind right. You need to get your emotions in check, and you need to get your body right. If your body ain't right, nobody's gonna respect you. We all, as men, want to be respected. We want to be admired. We want to be looked up to, and we want to be trusted, right? So if we don't trust ourselves, if we don't respect ourselves, if we don't, take care of ourselves, how do you expect a woman to come and do that for you, or anybody else to do that for you? I walk into a building and I walk in like I own the building and I get the respect from people because that's how I carry myself. Every man wants to have that. It would be a lie to say otherwise. So once you've shown yourself to be disciplined like that and that you have the willpower, then we can add some fun back in there because then you know where your limits are and then you know how strong your mind is, right? Then you know how strong your willpower is and you know when too far or enough is enough, so to speak.
mm,
That's my take on it, really. For me, for example, I can starve myself of fun for unlimited amount of time. It's not healthy necessarily, but I've gotten used to it.
mm. So when we put like, so your kind of approach is like putting some like discipline, putting a bit of willpower sort of in place for a certain period, and then kind of like adapting like that into their lifestyle a little bit more.
Yep,
Well,
exactly.
not a little bit more, but like an ongoing thing, basically. Um, yeah, with the like mechanisms to keep it in place, because I know there's a lot of people who can like start a diet, start like an exercise regime, and fall off quite easily.
Yeah.
What kind of mechanisms do you feel can help people stay in place?
So one thing that I know helped me when I was, fuck, how old was I? I was about 20 at this time. I had a doctor, well, not a proper doctor. He was more like a holistic doctor, a good friend of my mother.
Hmm.
And he told me at the time I had a disease in my liver, which was called Helicobacter or some shit, right? It was a German term at the time. Um, he basically told me, okay, I have to cut out certain foods, no alcohol, this and that for 30 days, right? So that's easy. For some people, it's hard. You want to add the discipline in because at the end of the day, if your life sucks, you want to change your life in some aspect, right?
Yeah.
So the easiest mechanism is, okay, can you go for 30 days without any of that shit? 30 days, that's it. 1 month, right? And a month passes by like nothing. If you can go for 30 days, then you give that person maybe a week or a weekend where they kind of can go all crazy and knock themselves out a little bit, and experience that prior life they had before again. And then put them back on routine. Like for me, for example, he gave me 30 days to cut all that stuff out. And I think I did about 3 weeks at the time. And he came to me, he's like, okay, you need to do another 3 weeks. And I'm just thinking, fuck, like I've already done 3 weeks. Like I've got to do another 3 weeks. So obviously that weekend, my mother and I, we went to Italy for a weekend. I had some ice cream. I said, fuck it. But for the next 3 weeks, I went straight on again. But what it did to me was because at the time I had a sugar addiction, so to speak. I couldn't stay away from the sweets, the pastry foods and all that stuff. So what it did to me is it kind of took that taste out of my mouth those 6 weeks of doing that diet, so to speak. I'd go into a shop and I'd see those things and I just didn't crave it anymore. It just, you know, it's like crazy example trying to get a man off of pornography. You go without it for a certain amount of time. Like, I mean, every man once in their life has done it. We can't lie about that. I've done it, you've done it, I'm sure you
Hmm.
know. Every man in their
We all
life,
have, yeah.
we've all done it, right? One thing which struck me, for example, when I heard Danny say a while back is, watching that stuff, you're actually disrespecting every woman in your family. It could be your sister, your mother, your girlfriend, and you're disrespecting your own feminine. So I heard that and I'm like, shit, okay, that's deep. I don't want to be looking at those girls and thinking about one of my family members, right? Besides, it's pixels. It's pixels that I'm getting horny off of. It's not real life. You're doing that because you want to be there in real life. So when you can starve yourself off of those habits, and you have to start off step by step, you know what I mean? Like I can't remember. I think I went first time I did that was probably 2 or 3 years ago, where I just started starving myself from that. And then you fall back into it, and then you give yourself a bit of you kind of go back and forth with it, which is why I say when you decide to do something, you have to go all in and you have to be hardcore about it. It's like somebody who's trying to quit smoking. Oh, well, I've quit smoking, now I'm gonna go and do snooze or I'm gonna go and do vapes instead. It's the same fucking damage, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
You gotta be cold turkey about it. So you gotta give the person a certain amount of time, like a month, for example, where you're saying, okay, stick to these habits and take all those habits out for 30 days and your body will adapt to it. Your body won't crave it anymore. When I did that with the sugar, when I did that with pornography, for example, a couple years ago, I didn't crave it anymore. You know what I mean? And then, you get back into it, craved it for a little bit, but then again, the mindset has to come in and your willpower has to come into where it's like, no, I'm not doing that shit anymore. That's decisions done, and you find something else that's healthy to do instead of doing that, right?
Hmm.
So that's where I'd say the easy part is give somebody 30 days, let them prove themselves, because they're not proving it to me, they're proving it to themselves, right? I don't care what they do. It's about them, how strong they want this. How much do they want this change? 30 days, Cool. You've managed those 30 days. Perfect. You have a week now. Knock yourself out, whatever. And then we're going to do something where you're going to go for a few months straight. Say, for example, my fitness program, I'm going to train you for a few months. Every weekend you get to knock yourself out, but 5 days in a row you have to be good, right? So we're going to do like what is that, an 80-20 split, I guess? 80%, 20%.
Yeah.
Throughout the week, you're going to be good. You got to eat healthy. You got to train. On the weekend, do whatever the heck you want, even drink, I don't care. But as soon as Monday comes back again, you better be on that routine. And you keep on doing that over an extended period of time, you're gonna notice you're not gonna crave that shit anymore. Because your body is a filter and it gets used to the healthy stuff instead of the unhealthy stuff. That when you introduce that unhealthy stuff into your body, it immediately, does something to get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know? It's like I can go up to Duquesne, I love a good English cider. Love it. But I drink one and I'm pissing it up the wall a few seconds later, right? Because my
Because
body's just not
cider.
used to it anymore. So that's
Yeah.
that's how you want to, get people to slowly change habits is by, being disciplined for a certain amount of time, then letting them taste a little bit of again, just so that they can prove themselves that they don't need it anymore. They're not proving it to me, they're proving it to themselves,
Hmm.
you know? That's my take on that.
It's an interesting, yeah, that's an interesting approach. I like that. Yeah, what I do personally, for me, it has to be about when giving up stuff, especially, it has to be about being very truthful to yourself and being very honest. And then I have an accountability partner, not just one of the collective, but I've got one outside as well. But I'm like, right, this is exactly what I'm giving up, and being very clear on that. No kind of rule, like being very clear on the rules of what I can't have, like giving up alcohol, for example, for months. I do that in spells. Go without it for months,
Yeah.
months without it currently, and it's like, just because it's something that can get to your brain and just impact clarity and feeling good as much as you can. But
Yeah.
I get very clear on what it is, so it's like, right, not having that, and that's exactly what I'm not having, and then let him know, and then you just go for a certain period and you crave it less and less. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
I find it, but it's about, for me, I found that just you sort of get very clear at the first, because if you're like, yeah, I may or may not have bad food, but it's like
Yes.
then the brain tries to get in and then go,
Your
oh,
brain tries to find
that's okay,
exactly.
that's okay. So you have to be very clear.
Your
I
brain
find
tries
to
to
begin
find these
with.
excuses. Exactly. That's it. The brain is a trick. It tries to find these excuses as to why you can't have it. You know what I mean?
Mm,
It's like we went to Awaken in London. What was this? May, I think, end of May, was it?
yeah, end of May, start of June. Yeah.
End of May. And in that time, this is getting very personal right now. Like I went celibate without anything for about 5 months straight.
Mm,
You know what I mean? That was to prove myself again, not proving it to anyone else, but proving it to myself that I can stay clean. You know? That's another thing. Like you just said, you can go with alcohol for 8 months. I can have a drink today and I can tell myself tomorrow, cool, I'm not having anything else for the next month. And I can stick to that easily because I've done it before.
mm,
Once you get used to limiting certain things for yourself that you know are not healthy, like you said, you crave it less and less. And it's not hard anymore. It's like, yeah, okay, I know if I'm going out on a nice date and I crave a nice cocktail, cool, I'll have that. You know? I'll do it with intention because I'm gonna enjoy it, and then after that, done again. And
mm.
so it's the same thing with everything I figured out, with life, with fitness, with money, with everything. You got to do everything with certain intentions behind it. Whatever you touch, you got to execute it to the fullest, fullest, all your energy in it.
Mm, I love that, Kai, and I know you personally help people with transformation, like you're saying, for their coaching. So they've got someone to keep them in check with like their fitness goals and also their mindset and what they're thinking. So I know you're doing some great work with people out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, just before we wrap up, be really great to know where the listener can find you if they want to reach out and get in touch with your work. I know you're on socials. Um, and yeah, is there anything you'd like to leave us with today in terms of a final point?
Well, I appreciate you for having me on the call. I like sharing my knowledge. I do really
Mm,
appreciate that. I'm very active on Instagram, so they can definitely find me on there. It's gonna be ambitious minus 981,
hmm
which 98 is my birthday and number one is the first day I was born of March. Um, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate being on the call. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate you really being curious about how I help people and what techniques and methods that I use to get people there, you know?
Awesome.
At the end of the day, I'm just an accountability partner for those people. That's it.
Mm,
That's
awesome.
really what it is. Changing mindsets, belief systems, and letting people take action in different ways. Yeah.
Mm, amazing. No, thank you, Kai, and we'll be sure to link your Instagram in the show notes below, so you can get in touch with Kai and get more support if you're needing that. And then yeah, watch some of his inspiring content as well. So thank you again, Kai.
Thank you, Johnny.
Cool. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.
That's right.